County. Following Councilmember Stewart will be Chief of Police Marcus Jones. After Chief Jones will be the President of the Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce, Jane Redeker. And finally, you'll hear from Jason Musciri, who is a business owner here in downtown Silver Spring. He's the owner of Society, The Angry Jerk, Breakfast Club. Anything else? Good. So a number of businesses here, and you're going to hear from them about the work that they've done with the police department here to make their establishment safer. So with no further ado, County Executive Marc Elrich.
I guess it's good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. You'll be hearing from a few of us to talk about what we're going to be putting out in Silver Spring. Last year we met with business leaders here and community members, other elected leaders, and we discussed the situation and concerns in downtown Silver Spring over crime and safety. And since then, MCPD and the county agencies have been working hard, as Chief Jones is going to share. We've taken steps to increase recruitment of police, including increasing the startup salaries and other key steps. Salaries and benefits were the key. We are last in the region. We're not last anymore. And so we're in a much better position to recruit. And we've improved our policies, also looking at lateral transfers. So we're doing everything we can do to increase the size of the police force. We are making the community safer. We're using enhanced technology. You see cameras in Silver Spring that you never saw before. We're making improvements in the public realm. There's enhanced lighting, graffiti removal, and maintenance of sidewalks and roadways. You're going to see more use of technology. You see license plate readers, stationary and in vehicles, and we've got money in the proposed budget to go further with license plate readers and cameras. And we're increasing staff and coordination for individuals who are experiencing mental health crises. We are trying to separate out the use of police for mental health crises from the use of police for real public safety concerns, and that's an ongoing project. The legislation being introduced today is the next step. Working with business leaders and council members, we've transmitted legislation that will allow MCPD to require late-night business safety plans in priority areas for late-night businesses. Legislation will make certain that key businesses open after midnight in identified areas of the county are part of the solution. These businesses will work with the police on items ranging from secure personnel and training to exterior lighting and graffiti removal and security cameras. Affected businesses who refuse to comply will receive a daily fine and could open themselves up to stricter penalties, which will not exclude having your business shut down, period. You're going to be hearing from Jane Redeker from the Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce and Jason Musciri. You'll hear more from Earl on details on the legislation from Chief Jones and Captain Reed, and I look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Kate Stewart, and I'm the Montgomery County Council Member for District 4, and I want to thank the County Exec for inviting me to participate today. You know, I'm here not only as the District 4 representative, but I am here as somebody who lives, works, plays here in Silver Spring. I've been here for over 25 years. My two children went to MCPS schools and graduated from Blair, and they grew up here. They grew up here going to ballet lessons, ice skating. The first movie they went to on their own was right here. As they got older, they went to the Fillmore, attended festivals here, and meet with friends and family to celebrate birthdays and special occasions. So I'm here because, like many people in our community, I want to make sure that Silver Spring continues to be a place where young people, families, older folks, everyone feels safe to come and enjoy everything that we have here. And to do that, we all need to work together. As we talk about how we do things and what we put in place, I think it's also important we think about the context of what's going on. I have the pleasure of also being the chair of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Board this year. That is a board that represents 24 jurisdictions regionally. So I work with colleagues in Virginia and Loudoun County and in Washington, D.C. and in Prince George's and other jurisdictions in Maryland. And I can tell you that everyone is facing a crisis, especially among guns on our streets and gun violence. This is something we talk about. This is something we share regionally and around the country. But what's most important is how we feel here in Silver Spring and in our neighborhoods. And that's what we need to make sure that we're working on. And I do want to acknowledge, as the county exec did, all that's been happening in downtown Silver Spring particularly. And I want to thank Commander McBain, Captain Reed for all their work, and all the officers who have really increased their patrols and worked with the neighbors, worked with the residents and the local businesses, as you'll hear from Jason in a moment. And I got to see this firsthand when I did a ride-along just a week or so after being sworn in as the county council member. Because, as I said, I'm out here in Silver Spring a great deal, but I know it's very different to be out here at midnight with a police officer to see what's going on. And I was very thankful to be able to do that. It was a quiet night. I know the police don't like to talk about quiet evenings, but I was glad, though, to see firsthand what they're experiencing and the hard work that they are putting in to make sure everyone feels safe in our community. As we said, addressing the issues we're facing are going to require all of us to take part in the solutions. And right now, I can tell you, working with our local police department, they're doing an excellent job in solving many of the crimes and working with the local residents. And we need to do more to prevent the crimes from happening. And that means, as I talked about before, working on gun safety laws at the state and federal level, as the county executive talked about, increasing mental health services and continuing and expanding our programs for young people. Specifically, we're here today, as the county exec mentioned, to talk about another proactive step, the legislation that he is proposing for safety plans for our businesses. And I want to thank him for taking this proactive step here across Montgomery County, but particularly here in downtown Silver Spring. And I want to work with our local police department, and you'll hear in a moment from our local businesses about how they're going to come together and work so that we create a safer space. I do have some amendments I want to talk to the county executive about on his legislation. And in particular, I'm going to be put forward a grant program for small businesses so that they can create these safety plans, live up to them, and also work with small businesses that are impacted by crime in our communities. Because we know this is something that we have to also support our small businesses to make sure they stay vibrant and part of our community. Finally, I just want to say that, I know bad news on Twitter and other places, increased clicks and open rates. But if folks only listen to the police scanner, you're only getting one part of the news. And there's a lot of good news here in Silver Spring. And there's a lot of excitement. We have the opening, or soon to be opening, a Uniqlo coming to Silver Spring. The Nike store is opening in just a few weeks. And if you haven't tried Black Lion coffee, you are missing out. And in particular, Jason's going to talk about his new business, the Breakfast Club. And we have, groups here that have been here forever for businesses. And those are the ones we also have to make sure survive and continue to be here. So as we welcome the new businesses, we also need to make sure that we're supporting our legacy and our long-term businesses here. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for everyone coming together for this, because it's going to take our community. It's going to take our residents, our businesses, our families, all of us, our police, coming together. Silver Spring is a jewel in Montgomery County. We really are a very special place here, and it's going to take all of us to have that continue. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. I'm Chief Marcus Jones, Chief of Police for Montgomery County Police, and I want to thank the County Executive, Marc Elrich, and Council Member Kate Stewart for allowing me to say a few words today, really about the hard work of the men and women of Montgomery County Police, working in conjunction with the business community here in downtown Silver Spring, and to really bring forth this legislation that we are, again, willing to assist and make a difference here in the county and in Silver Spring to make people safe. The one thing I really want to stress there is making people feel safe. The reality is that often on social media, there are, as Councilmember Stewart noted, that there are a lot of times advertised incidents that occur. And again, you must know the whole story. We can't sometimes just know a part of the story. But again, those are the things that can make people feel uncomfortable about the realities of coming to an area such as downtown Silver Spring. And one of the initiatives that we have done over the last few weeks, but clearly over the past several months, is to really come up with a safety plan that we believe that is going to be fruitful to assist with the residents, the business owners, and those who come to shop and eat in Silver Spring and visit these businesses. We want to make sure people understand that it is safe here, and some of the things that we've done in order to make sure that that is happening. And so under my direction, we have made sure that we've increased the amount of our cameras in high visibility areas in order to be able to monitor much of the activity that's going on in our main thoroughfares on Georgia Avenue as well as Colesville Road in many of our high traffic areas. I also wanted to focus on the realities that we are putting license plate readers on these main roadways. As many people know, that we've had issues with an increase in carjackings in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, to include Silver Spring and other parts of Montgomery County. And we also wanted to make sure that we had these license plate readers because they do indicate to the officers when a vehicle is actually passing through these particular neighborhoods. And our officers are very much engaged in wanting to capture these individuals that are actually committing such crimes. But again, as we deal with not only the issues that are occurring at all times of the day and night, the reality is that we want to make people safe no matter what time. So we know the nightlife that happens in the late night hours, generally people think that is the most viable time for many people to actually commit crimes. The reality is that crimes are actually committed all throughout the day. And one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was those people in the business community, as Silver Spring is very vibrant. And so 7 days a week, I've now directed officers to be at many of our main intersections here in the downtown corridor. Similarly, right here at Fenton and Ellsworth, but at many of the other areas that you see that there'll be high visibility patrol. Prevention is a key. It's not that we want to wait until a crime is occurring. We want to be out in front to make sure that individuals know that we take people's safety very seriously in this county. And so the reality is that even as events occur throughout the day and night, particularly in the nightlife, that we want to, again, work with our businesses to make sure that they have a safe environment for the patrons who are coming to visit them. And there are many people who are coming who just want to have a good time. This is what Montgomery County is all about. We support that. And we are here to support this in a very positive way in order to make sure that we can make people as safe as possible. So we are going to work with these businesses, working with them with different programs that enhance camera programs, video, as well as working with them on to make sure that they are closing and the hours in which it is required or will be required by this new legislation. And we want to do this in a very partnering way that we think it will be beneficial to everyone. We want individuals who are living in downtown Silver Spring to have peace when they go to sleep at night, and that we're not going to have these events that are going to damage in any way. So Commander McBain and Captain Reed have been designated for a very long time to actually really work hard, and they've worked hard with the officers, the rank and file, who are the ones who are actually doing really good work, boots on the ground, as I state, who are being highly visible, who are working with our community in order to maintain a safe community. So again, I want to say to the county executive to thank you, and that we are here and committed in order to get this legislation and to make sure that it's enforced in a proper way. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I need my glasses, sorry. First, thank you to the county executive for taking this step and putting this legislation, sending this legislation over to council. We really appreciate that. We also appreciate the opportunity to let the chamber speak today. I'm Jane Rediker, and I'm president of the Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce, a position I've had for almost 18 years now. Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce has always been all about making Silver Spring a thriving business community, a place where people want to live, work, and come to enjoy the many great reasons that so many of us love Silver Spring. And there are so many. You've heard about a couple of them today. Our wonderful arts and entertainment venues, our breweries, what I like to call our United Nations of restaurants, and our nightlife. All of this, plus our diverse community, plus our location, are the reasons that so many people also want to live here. We're committed to working with the police, to working with the county to make Silver Spring a safe, comfortable, and welcoming place for everyone who lives, works, and visits here. And part of that effort has been to nurture a really good relationship with those to whom we entrust our public safety. We've had a great partnership with our 3rd District police officers and with Commander Jones. More than a year ago, the Chamber brought together a group of business owners, residents, and county officials seeking to address many of the public safety challenges that we've experienced and that you've heard about today, particularly those associated with establishments that are open way into the night and the wee hours of the morning. I actually did one of those ride-alongs before COVID, let's just put it that way. My night was not quite as quiet as the one that Councilmember Stewart described, but it was eye-opening, to say the least. And so that was one of the things that spurred us to ask for this meeting and to get together with our county officials to try to look at ways to make it safer and make everybody here comfortable. We asked for greater police presence in the area, which, thank you, Chief Jones, thank you, Commander McBain, thank you, Captain Reed, for everything you've done to make a huge difference in our community. It has made a difference. We asked for an interagency task force to jointly address some of the violations that we realized were occurring and to enforce the laws that were already in place. We asked for better lighting and more cameras. We've gotten better lighting and more cameras. And we asked for legislation. We also asked for some help with dealing with getting more staff to deal with those who suffer from mental health challenges on the street, because we know that they need the help that they are not getting right now. And so we continue to ask for that from the county. And we asked for legislation to make sure that the establishments that weren't following the rules were held accountable. This legislation, which will broaden safety protocols for all businesses which stay open late into the evening and wee hours of the morning, is an important first step to bringing back a safe environment for all of us to enjoy and the environment that we all want. We want all businesses to thrive, and we believe that assuring a safe and welcoming environment for everyone is key to a thriving business community, a thriving Silver Spring, and also a thriving Montgomery County. So we're here to work with the businesses. We're here to work with the county. We want to make sure that it's safe for everybody who lives here, who works here, and who comes here to enjoy all the wonderful things that we love about Silver Spring. Thank you.
Jason Muscuri, good afternoon. I have 3 businesses here in downtown Silver Spring. I grew up in this area in Tacoma Park. I went to Tacoma Elementary. I went to Piney Branch. I went to Tacoma Junior High. I went to Blair, Montgomery College, and I graduated from George Mason University. Society Lounge, as you guys know, has been here for 12 years. I would say the main business that started the nightlife in downtown Silver Spring. I also opened up the Angry Jerk, secure, quick QSR type of establishment, similar to Chipotle's 3 doors down. And just recently, 6 weeks ago, I opened up the Breakfast Club. I love Silver Spring. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be opening businesses the way that I am so rapidly, 2 of them, which I did during COVID. And they're doing extremely well. So I applaud the leaders for this legislation. I think it's great. We need to put it in place. Shout out to my guy, now Captain Reed, who was, he came into my life about a year ago. And that has never happened before. So, you know, I'm happy that we made that relationship because we're able to put things in place to control a lot of things that's happening. It's a little emotional, but I've come a long way. Apologize. But yes, we've been able to put things in place that help to control the crime. And not only myself, but a lot of other businesses here. I've used money out of my own pocket for almost a year now to help some of these issues. And like I said, I'm happy to be a part of it. They know that I have their back, and I'm pretty sure they have mine. I'm also opening up in a gym, 38,000 square feet in Burtonsville, Old Burtonsville Crossing. So I love Montgomery County, and I just want to be happy, and I want to be a part of anything we need to do to make sure that this area thrives. Thank you.
Jason, I got to give you, this man has done more than any other business owner in Silver Spring to help make us safe. So, thank you.
Okay.
I want to take that a little bit further. So I think, Jason alluded to society. Over the last year, he's worked with Captain Reed and the police department to implement some safety measures in this establishment. They haven't had a call for service in about over a year at this point. So, this is an example of why we're putting this legislation forward, because obviously business owners like Jason have done a great job being proactive, other business owners as well. But not every business is necessarily as proactive as Jason has been. And so we want to make sure that we have a consistent practice, because we've now seen, based on the experience of Jason's businesses, that this can work and it can reduce crime and it can make the establishment safer for the people who are coming to visit, for the residents of Montgomery County. And, it's part of a thriving business life. So with that, I think we'll open it up for some questions from the media. Oh, yeah.
This is a criminal justice issue. It's concerning to a lot of people, but it's also an economic issue, because if people do not feel safe here, people will not come here and spend their dollars here. The data is pointing that you're heading in the right direction. Murders are down here, but the perception is the opposite. We talked to a bunch of people today. They say they do not feel safe down here at night. How concerned are you about that perception, and how important is it for all of this to work? Otherwise, people will stop coming.
Yeah, we don't have any choice but to be concerned about perceptions. Reality doesn't always doesn't reach people. I mean, the news stories, focus on the worst of people, don't focus on the best of people. So you don't know when things are working, but you do know when things aren't working. And all it takes is one horrific murder, like the one that occurred in a garage, and that becomes a perception about everything in Silver Spring. And it's why, we started working with the business community, I think it's over a year ago, and we started tightening things down, because we knew we couldn't afford to just say, well, it's not that bad, the numbers really don't show what people perceive. It doesn't matter what people perceive, or it doesn't matter what the numbers are. It matters a whole lot what people perceive. So we've taken this seriously from the beginning, and we're going to keep taking it seriously.
Chief, can I ask you about staffing? Obviously, there's been a big reaction to people we talked to today. They see the officers on the street, they welcome them. But you're still down officers. How many officers are you down, and how much does that play into all of this?
So when you look at our entire department, we are down about 129 officers. But one of the things I focus on, and all of our commanders of each district station, patrol is the most visible position on our department. The patrol officers, who are the ones who are answering the calls for service, the 911 calls, the non-emergency calls, being highly visible in our communities. So they are our bread and butter for the most part. And one of the things we make sure is that we want to make sure that we have the appropriate number of officers to be able to conduct the business at hand every single day. every hour of the day. We have, again, 24-hour, 7 days a week. And so this is the beat that must go on, and we must stay on top of this. Our commanders work very hard to make sure that we are at least meeting our minimum staffing. And whenever we have an issue, such as what we are talking about here today, where there is a perception, right, that people are not safe in any of the communities throughout Montgomery County, not just Silver Spring, but anywhere in the county where I have issues where people say, Chief, I don't feel safe. I want to make sure that we provide the services necessary, the visibility necessary, the officers necessary, any other support resources. So there are times that I bring other resources from other parts of our department in order to help those areas, such as downtown Silver Spring, so that we can make sure that people feel safe. And so the reality is, though, we are short collectively all throughout the department. And again, I am short in many of our specialized positions. But the reality is we are going to make sure that we are not going to not be able to handle being responsive to the 911 calls, to be responsive to our districts and our Patrol Services Bureau. We are not going to do that. This is, again, the backbone of our department. It's the most highly visible of our agency. And again, I will bring other resources, as I have been doing and will continue to do, as I deem it necessary for us to make sure that our communities are safe.
I have a question for James Dixon when it comes to the issue of perception. When you have to introduce more police officers to a location or cameras, hold a press conference like this one, is there ever any concern that could give up the perception that Silver Spring is not safe and throw off people? Or have you seen in the past that this does invite more people to come down to this?
I think, yes, the perception can be that, but because of the situation of things that were at that particular time that was kind of ramping up, it was needed. And I didn't have an issue with it at all. I have one of those cameras just directly right in front of my establishment. And it deters people from coming to this, because a lot of the crimes that were happening were people coming into Silver Spring. So if they can see more lighting, if they can see cameras, if they can see officers, those are the people that we don't want to come into this area. Now, we just have to speak to the community and let them know that it's safe, and keep encouraging and let them know, like, these are measures that we're taking to deter the people that are committing crimes, not you guys.
I want to add one thing to what the question was asked to. So, at the county executive's direction, the reason why we engaged in this process is we wanted to say to the residents of downtown Silver Spring, we hear you, right? We hear what your concerns are raised. We're not going to, amplify necessarily all the negativity about downtown Silver Spring, but we're going to talk about Silver Spring in a way that's, very straightforward, serious, and is responsive to what we're hearing. People have concerns or perceive it as not being safe. We have to address that. I think that's the key thing. And so, and Chief Jones alluded to the fact that, we are down officers, which is why the county executive's direction, we've really tried to invest in other things to make the police job easier. For example, we've increased our number of health and human service mental health responders, those dealing with homelessness, because those are calls for service that our police department normally would have to respond to. The person doesn't get necessarily the help that they need, and we take some of that burden off them. So we want to say to the residents of downtown Silver Spring, we hear you, and these are the right reasons why we're talking about it today. So.
Could you better define the scope of this legislation? It says certain businesses will be required to have this late-night service plan in certain areas. So what are the certain businesses and what are the certain areas?
Sure. So the way we've outlined it is, so if you have a liquor license, a restaurant license where on-site, a food license for on-site consumption, or an other tobacco products license where you have on-site consumption, and you operate between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m., you may be subject to this regulation. What we're also doing is tying to that, you have to be in an area of a high call for service by the police department. And we've broken it down to the smallest geographic area possible, which is known as a police response area. So we have a district, we have a beat, and we have a police response area, which is the smallest geographic area. So the police department will look at high calls for service between midnight and 6 a.m., identify the areas, and if you have one of those licenses and you operate between 6 a.m., midnight and 6 a.m., you'll be required to have a safety plan.
So it's driven by crime data.
Yes.
And so you can branch out to other areas. You can go to Rio or other
Yep.
places if the crime data.
Exactly. This will change on an annual basis, so, obviously the police department will continue to evaluate. The presumption is, we work closely with the businesses, they implement safety plans, they improve after a year, then they're not going to require to have a safety plan, and maybe some other part of the county may be required to.
Can you give us an estimated cost, how much this is going to cost the business?
It depends, because I think some of the businesses have already taken some of the measures in terms of cameras, lighting, things of that nature. So it will depend on the individual assessment. What's going to happen over the next period of time, once the council works with us potentially on amendments, then hopefully passes the legislation, is there will be a 6-month period where the police department will develop a set of regulations. Those regulations will be approved by the county council. Once they've been approved, they'll go out and we'll make notice to the businesses that, hey, you fall into one of the areas as defined by this regulation, and then they'll have a period of compliance where they have to come into compliance with the law. So. Sir.
I have a two-part question. The first one is, I've been told that we are the only jurisdiction that allows businesses to be open after 2 a.m. And the second part is, if that's true, why? Why do you have a plan for businesses after 2 a.m.? It seems that we're drawing people from other areas where there aren't businesses open after 2 a.m. So, those are my two questions.
Yeah, so it's not accurate that we're the only place that has businesses open after 2 a.m. Many jurisdictions do. Obviously, it varies based on the businesses that choose to open. So, for example, and I think Jason probably talked this better than I could, there is a restriction that if you have a liquor license, you have to get drinks off the table at 2 a.m. Many businesses choose to close at 2 a.m. because of that prohibition, but they aren't necessarily required to. If you're an all-night diner, for example, you can be open all night. And so there aren't necessarily a strict prohibition around closing at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. for that matter.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid mentioning food allowance, but I'll just bring it up. That seems to be a magnet for some of the bad events that we're having around here, and they're allowed to stay open, if I'm understanding correctly, past 2 a.m. Is that true?
So they can stay open past 2 a.m., hookah lounges can. I certainly could let the county executive speak to this, but his direction to us was essentially that, this is a first step. We're going to implement safety plans, assess how they work for businesses, and then, the reality is this gives us actually a different tool to enforce on individual businesses that are bad actors. Meaning, if they don't follow the safety plan and they aren't seeing improvements in terms of safety, we can go to a next step, which is actually seeking an abatement order through the court system, which could allow us to restrict opening hours.
So you don't have data now on who the bad actors are from the inspections that our police force has done on violations, alcohol violations?
So the reality is, and I can say this because I've been down here at 3 o'clock in the morning on these assessments, there are actually not as many violations as you might believe there is in terms of licensure violations. But this gives us an additional tool. One of the big recognitions that we had was we had limited tools. We had the letter of the law of different alcohol or food licensure, the OTP licenses, which are actually provided by the state of Maryland. We had the state ATC, Alcohol Tobacco Commission, down here helping us with regulation. They found very limited numbers of violations. Frankly, most of them were taxation violations with the businesses that we observed. And so this gives us an additional tool to ensure that not just the baseline requirements are met, but also that they have additional safety related.
Just add to that.
Yeah.
You raised the elephant in the room, and there it is, but I'll just say that, we're putting this in place now. If you don't have, which we didn't have, procedures that if you have X number of violations, then we can close you, then you can't do anything. We're putting in place the things that'll give us the ability to say, you're not following the rules, and I fully intend, if people do not follow the rules, that we will shut them down. We're not going to tolerate it. So once we lay out a clear path, people have the ability to comply, they can make that choice. If they choose not to comply, they won't do business here.
Any more questions from the press? Sir.
Oh, it's primarily.
Yeah.
It's not exactly. It's forcing to get more anti-Semitic flyers and not working. The data shows that hate crimes are up. I know exactly we talked about this before. How frustrating is it to see this continue
I worry about all that. I mean, I worry about the communities that are most targeted by this. I mean, so I'm old enough to have grown up in the 50s and the 60s. So I remember overt and open anti-Semitism and racism. People could say whatever they wanted. You just had to like turn your head or, ignore it or whatever you did in response to it. And there was a time when it seemed to go away. I think we all remember the pre-Trump days, and where things weren't quite as nuts. And then hate got a license again. And we have to struggle with that, but we're going to continue to push back. It is a good thing in Montgomery County that so many different faith groups, for example, will stand together and push back. But there are people who are not pushing back. There are institutions that are on the other side of this divide when you talk about race or religion. It's just reality. America hasn't changed that much. It changed a lot from when I was a kid. There's a whole lot of distance to travel. And so I've called on people to speak up, whether it means seeing something offensive and summoning the courage to tell somebody that that's offensive, that that's racist, homophobic, whatever it is. If nobody says anything, people just get to glide through life and think, well, most people don't care. I think we've got to exhibit that we care. Because if people think we care, and if we start making this something where you might actually get embarrassed in public because people start calling you out, maybe people decide, at least if I can't change their mind, at least they have enough sense not to display this kind of hatred openly. But it's very destructive of society. It makes lots of people nervous. We are not going to take this lightly, and we will pursue it aggressively.
And Chief, from where you are, with your men on the ground, are you astonished to see these numbers go up? See it skyrocket like it has? And what do you think about it?
I will say I'm astonished in where we are in today's environment. We see way too many of these incidents. It's not only, I'm not only going to say it's just young people. We have found, of course, several, some of these incidents that have occurred at some of our schools, but we've also seen some things in our community, and we're not quite sure who it is. And so I will tell you, we take these issues very seriously. Again, we are one of the few agencies in the state of Maryland, as an example, that actually documents all of our bias incidents and our hate crimes. You'll see the numbers across the state, and when you look at the state numbers, you will see that it's evident, because you'll see Montgomery County's numbers very high. And you'll see other jurisdictions where there's very little, if any, reporting of these types of incidents. And it's unfortunate because, and it is my belief that we're not the only jurisdiction where these things are occurring. It's just that we have other law enforcement that decides to treat it differently. So we take it seriously to document all bias incidents because we want to look at the intelligence that says to us that we may have a problem within our community that is demonstrating that. And again, it goes to people's fears. So our detectives, again, they work these cases to the best of their ability. It does take cooperation many times, unfortunate. And again, in the world of technology, we hope that maybe we get a break here and there. And sometimes we do get someone who does have the courage to come forward and tell us who might be involved in these incidents. We want to continue to encourage that, getting that message out there. But again, I will say to you, from my perspective, it's probably one of those, the types of crime that we are very disturbed about, that sometimes we have challenges in actually solving.
All right, take one more question for the media.
Chief,
Oh,
may I please?
yeah, sir.
Could you give us an idea of what this late night business safety plan? I know you have time to develop the requirements, but there must be some things you have in mind. Some things have been alluded here, lighting, security. What are you going to require these businesses to have? Security on site, cameras, what is it?
Well, in some cases, it again, as Dr. Starter noted, it may be actually like security. If there is a late night establishment that's open, let's say past 3 a.m., and we know for in fact that, we've had issues though in the area that's a high, again, as noted, we look at this through our police reporting area stats that we see that this is an area that has concerns. So we want to make sure that these businesses understand that, again, by them being open late, it sometimes attracts individuals who may want to cause problems. And so we want to make sure that they have certain things in place. Well, it could be a security team. It could be cameras. It could be both. It could be even more extensive to that, depending upon the layout of the business, how big the business is. Those are a lot of dynamics. Those are things we have to figure out once we know that the legislation has been completed, and then we can look at that and make assessments and come up with those terms after that. Okay.
The one last piece I'll add is the other thing we also talked about is tinting of windows so you can see into an establishment so it's not obscured, and lighting on multiple entrances. So you might have a front and a rear entrance, a rear alleyway, for example. You may need to have lighting there too. So those are some examples of things that we're looking at. So with that, I think we're going to conclude the press conference. Appreciate you all. We're happy to take questions afterwards informally. So thank you. Thank you all for being here.
Behavior during high-risk hours, and I have attended 6 of your hearings, and their level of standards are high. We have an owner that is looking to open another hookah bar next to his existing, and he had 4 violations existing. How in the world did Montgomery County give him the right to have a hearing? He should have been told you had lost your right. Alcohol services, beverages. They manage ABS. Yes. Yeah.
So first off,
Can we go over? Sir, I was just working with you to be safe. Come on.
yeah, so